to Attack of the Remakes here on Reaction and Review. Tonight, guys, we're checking out a film from 2010. That movie is Death at a Funeral. Now, if you followed my channel for a while, you may happen to remember that last year I covered the original Death at a Funeral, and I absolutely adored it. And if I hadn't have covered so many awesome movies last year, Death at a Funeral would have almost certainly made it into my top 5. In fact, if I would have made a top 10 last year, it definitely would have made it into a top 10. So I have some hopes going into this, because it is based on a movie that I couldn't stop laughing at. It was one of the funniest comedies I'd seen in a long time. Now, I really don't know a whole lot about this version, save for two things. One, where the original Death at a Funeral was made in England and had an entirely white cast. The remake was made in the US and has a 99% black cast. I honestly don't know if the racial flip is going to do anything for the humor. I honestly don't. The only other thing I know, and this is a ridiculously trivial thing, but I honestly am a sad enough bastard to look up this sort of shit. The remake of Death at a Funeral is 1 minute longer than the original. Yes, I looked up the runtimes on both films and noticed that the remake is 1 minute longer. I understand that has fuck all to do with the movie itself, because that might mean that there's 60 seconds of extra jokes. Or their timing is off a bit, and it has to run an extra minute because of that. I don't know. I have no idea. I am hoping for this movie to be good, but the only way I'm going to find out, guys, is if I shut up and I push play, and I'm going to do that right now. So, without further ado, it's time to kick back, relax, and check out Death at a Funeral. Alright, guys, I just want to say this right now. I'm really digging a whole lot of the cast in this movie, except for two people, because neither of them are funny, and neither of them can act. Those are Martin Lawrence and Tracy Morgan. The fact that I got to put up with those two for the next 90 minutes or so is going to really suck. So far, though, everything else is really good, but god damn it, the scenes with those two are just dragging this movie to a dead halt, and that's not a good thing. You know, guys, I'm just going to say this right now. This movie's definitely funny. However, I can say right now that so far it's not as funny as the original film. I am not dumping on the movie itself. I'm just saying that what is here, while certainly funny, is nowhere near as side-splittingly hilarious as what I saw last year. I just kind of wanted to share that. I would like to say one thing, guys. There is one actor who's in both the original Death at a Funeral and the remake, and that is Peter Dinklage. For some reason, between the original and this one, Dinklage apparently stopped caring, because his performance here, nowhere near as good as what it was in the original Death at a Funeral. Here he almost seems to just not care in the slightest about being here. He seems to be phoning in his performance. This joke is going to sound really bad, but you could almost say that Dinklage's performance is coming up short. Yes, I feel horrible for saying it, but I don't fucking care. Well, guys, I just want to say right now that the movie's almost over, but I have to make something really clear. Earlier, I was worried about Tracy Morgan and Martin Lawrence, ruining this movie because neither of them can act and neither of them are funny. I can throw Luke Wilson onto that pile too. Luke Wilson normally kind of sucks, but this is exceptionally bad even for him. Just thought I'd share that. Well, guys, that was Death at a Funeral. Let me shut that off. Okay. Well, as I've done this entire month, I guess first thing I should do is compare the two films. I'm going to tell you right now, there's one thing that's very noticeable about about both films, and that is that both of them are trying to cater to different audiences while telling the exact same story. You see, because there's a big difference between what normally is seen as British humor and what's seen as more, I guess, urban humor or black humor, okay? And normally one kind of humor is not going to appeal to the other group. So this right here was trying to tell the story from Death at a Funeral, while trying to strip away a whole lot of its Englishness, let's say, and give it a slightly more black feel. And it totally works for that. It absolutely does. The big question is now, are you more a fan of, black humor, or are you more a fan of British humor? And me personally, I skew a little bit more towards British humor, so I do have a bit of a more favorable view on the original than I do this one. Now, that is not to say that this is a bad movie. Oh, hell no. This thing is still certainly funny. It's just, it's not as funny as the original film. I also noticed, I actually had to look this up as I was watching the movie, but both versions are written by the same guy. In fact, I'm almost convinced that they used the same script. It's been a while since I watched the original Death at a Funeral, or I should say almost the same script, again, with this one stripping out a whole lot of the more English or British references and making more, urban US references. So it would seem way out of place in the fucking original film for there to be a joke out of left field about the Incredible Hulk taking a DNA test and going on the Maury Povich show. Yet that was a joke that they cracked here. It wasn't funny, at all, but at least it was something a little bit different. So why don't we talk about writing? Because this is the same story and the same setup that was in the original Death at a Funeral, again, because it had the same writer. Our story here is really tight. One big complaint I'm going to make, though, and this is like the biggest difference outside of the cultural shift between the original and this one, is the pacing of the humor. What made the original Death at a Funeral work, and this is something that is common in a lot of British comedies, is just the fact that the jokes are so rapid fire that you basically barely have a moment to breathe. You're going to be too busy laughing as long as it's written fucking well, which is why stuff like Fawlty Towers and Monty Python, when fucking Monty Python's working, at least, when all of that stuff is going, it is fucking going fast, it is going non-stop, and it is hilarious. This movie is trying to do a little bit more of a laid-back sort of thing, which honestly is a bit more common in, black comedies, urban comedies, whatever term you want to use. So, once more, because I am more a fan of rapid-fire comedy, I love that, and the slightly slowed down pace here, in certain cases it actually makes things work a hell of a lot better. In other instances, it really doesn't. Such as the scene in the study when everyone's trying to tie up the fucking midget and shut him up and silence him. In the original, that scene is insane. It is just going so fast, and it's so funny. You're laughing so hard. Here they slowed it down slightly, and it just throws off the pacing for the entire bit. At least to me, it does. So that honestly is my one big complaint, is the pacing change. The pacing change comes mainly from the cultural change from one film to the other. So it honestly is, I guess, more of like a side effect, and it's one of the reasons why I prefer British comedy over black comedy, personally. The movie is still funny, and the story here is good. Our characters here are really tight. I just wish that the jokes would have been a bit more tightly, paced. That would have been amazing. So yeah, we do have that. Acting. I just want to stress right now, this movie has an amazing cast, okay? We have some awesome names showing up in this film, because I know that we have Chris Rock, and we have Zoe Saldana. We've got, who the hell was the priest? It was Keith David. We have fucking Danny. We have Danny fucking Glover. We've got a ton. Kevin Hart has got a small, role in here, and he's fucking funny as hell in his bit. We have a cast who's really powerful, and they know how to bring the humor, and they know how to bring it really well. And then Tracy Morgan, Martin Lawrence, and Luke Wilson show up, and their scenes die so fast. And in the scenes where both Martin Lawrence and Tracy Morgan have to share a scene, it gets painful. Now, that is partially because I'm biased against all three of them. I don't find any of them to be funny. I don't think I've ever seen any of them act in anything that is even close to funny. So, I didn't have high hopes going in. However, at least occasionally, Martin Lawrence was able to crawl out of his talentless doldrums and actually give us something good. Mind you, that was like maybe one or two scenes, and that was mainly because Chris Rock had to carry him through those. However, barring those three names, barring Martin Lawrence, Luke Wilson, and Tracy Morgan, the rest of our cast is amazing, and the rest of our cast absolutely just blows I had some slightly high expectations looking at the cast, and the ones who I had faith in absolutely exceeded any and all expectations I had. And the two of them who I thought were going to suck, and the one I kind of had fear of, they all kind of sucked. The movie would have far benefited if they would have all been recast. Would have been nice if maybe they threw Kevin Hart in Martin fucking Lawrence's spot, because I think that having Chris Rock and Kevin Hart in more scenes together would have probably made this possibly the funniest fucking thing on the face of the earth, because both guys are funny. And if they honestly are given a chance to bounce off each other, I really think it would have been even funnier, because I just have that feeling. So acting here is for the most part solid. Again, barring my scant few complaints. Camera work here is... and also, I guess going back to acting, Dinklage, because Peter Dinklage is the only actor who I noticed is in both films, and he plays the exact same character, because apparently there's a shortage of midgets in Hollywood, so he basically had to take over this, So, what he did here is decent, but it didn't quite have as much, I guess, care put into it as when he did the same performance in the original Death at a Funeral. And because of that, his scenes come up a little bit, flat, because he doesn't seem to give a shit, because you can almost see it in his fucking eyes that he's been here before. If he would have maybe cared a little bit more about this, it would probably have turned out a lot better. Acting here is mostly decent, barring a few minor exceptions. Our camera work here is really solid. In fact, actually, a whole lot of the shots are almost shot-for-shot identical to what was in the original film, barring the fact that the house is laid out, differently, so you may have to reposition the camera. But still, it's pretty much about as close as you'll get to a shot-for-shot remake in terms of camera placement on key scenes. So all of that is awesome. Going back to writing for a second, and this once more ties into the whole cultural shift from British comedy to black comedy. Is I noticed the script got a lot more vulgar here. And mind you, this here's coming from somebody who swears quite often, but there are oftentimes spots here where it doesn't feel warranted. if that makes any sense, where characters are just saying fuck, I guess, for the sake to guarantee that the movie's going to get a fucking R rating, and I guess to make it feel more urban, because them black people swears, or some such stupid shit. But anyway, that honestly was something that kind of sort of threw me off a little bit, because I've been to a lot of funerals. I honestly can't say I've been to any funerals involving a lot of, black people, so I don't know if, cussing, if basically cussing like sailors is sort of a common thing amongst their funerals, but I know that at all the funerals that I go to, it's a little bit more somber. Of course, it's also not a... Of course, I've also never been I've also never been at a funeral that functions as a screwball comedy of sorts, so perhaps maybe it's sort of warranted. Again, it's just something minor, it's nothing huge, and most people are not going to care about the amount of swearing in here, but I personally felt it went a little bit overboard, and if you've watched me long enough and you know how often I swear, that should probably tell you that there's a little bit too much here, because it was a bit too much even for me. So I've already talked about camera work. Our sound mix here is good. Our soundtrack is good. Our score is awesome. Our lighting here is fine. Ultimately, guys, at the end of the day, am I able to recommend the remake of Death at a Funeral? If you haven't seen the original, and if you're more a fan of black comedy, urban comedy, again, whatever the hell the term is you want to use, if you prefer that style of comedy, then by all means check it out. However, as kind of, I guess, like a personal preference, I would go for the original over this one, because to me the humor is a little bit tighter in terms of like pacing and everything, and the acting is a little bit more balanced in that film. However, this one is still good. Is it good enough for me to keep in my Blu-ray collection? No, and that is specifically because I have the original on Blu-ray, and if I'm going to watch one of them, I'm going to pick that one over this thing every single time, so it really doesn't benefit for me to keep it. However, I can still recommend it once more if you haven't seen the original film, and if you're not really into British comedy, you're going to probably love this thing. And if you can find it on Netflix, if you can find it on Amazon Instant Video or on Hulu or Crackle or any of the other streaming services, or if you can find the Blu-ray cheap, by all means, or even shit, the DVD cheap, pick it up. You will hopefully get a lot more fun out of it than I did. Again, though, it is still funny, just not funny enough for me to keep in my collection personally. Now, I would love to thank the person who sent in this movie. Unfortunately, they never told me who they were. I didn't get a message about it. I didn't get anything on the invoice. Just sort of as a quick note for anyone who wants to send things in by way of the Amazon wish list. If you buy directly from Amazon, they actually give you an option where you can fill out like a gift tag, and on there you can put on your name and your YouTube channel and anything else you want me to know about. That usually helps. However, I didn't get anything like that. I didn't get any messages. I didn't get any tweets. I didn't get anything from whoever sent this in. So I don't know who sent it in, but to that person, I want to say thank you. This one here is one of the movies that this month I was the most curious about, because, as I stated, I watched the original Death at a Funeral last year, and I fucking loved it. And I've had people tell me that this one was better than that one. I've also had people tell me that it was worse. And I kind of wanted to find my own bearing on it, so I finally got to watch it, and, while it is good, it doesn't stack up to at least to me personally, it doesn't stack up to the movie I watched last year. And I wouldn't have known that if you hadn't have sent it in. And for that, I thank you. As always, you're fucking awesome. And once more, I would love to give like a proper shout out with maybe like a YouTube page, like Twitter account, a DA page, whatever. But because you didn't send me any messages and I didn't get any kind of like a gift tag with this, I can't I can't do that, and that makes me feel kind of bad, because I always want to do a little something extra for the people who send in stuff for this series. Now, as much as I'd love to go and watch the original Death at a Funeral right now, I really don't want to. As much as I normally want to just go and watch as much as I want to watch the fucking original after I watch a remake, there are so many similarities between these, it would basically feel like I was watching the very same movie. Now, I do have a handful of other British comedies. I know for a fact I've got Snatch, I've got Cockneys versus Zombies. I'm going to go watch one of those, because I kind of feel like I'm kind of sort of in like a bit of like a British mood right now. So I'm going to go and do that, and with that, guys, we come to the close of another reaction and review. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, take care, and I will see you all in the near future. Peace.